The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, written in the style of Stoic wisdom. Part 1. The Mirror of the Self, Seeing Human Nature Clearly. In the vast theater of life, where men and women play their parts with fervor and folly, there lies a truth as enduring as the stars. To live well, one must first know oneself, and to know oneself, one must understand the nature of all humanity. The Stoics taught us that wisdom begins with acceptance of what is, not with the vain struggle against it. Thus we turn our gaze inward, not with pride or shame, but with the calm clarity of a philosopher observing the tides. For within us stir the same passions, fears, and virtues that ripple through every soul. To master these forces is to master life itself. Being said, human nature is neither good nor evil, but a riverbed through which our actions flow. It is the raw clay of existence, malleable yet stubborn, shaped by reason or left wild by neglect. The Stoic does not curse the clay for its flaws, but learns its texture, its cracks, its possibilities. So too must we study the impulses that drive us. The hunger for approval, the dread of oblivion, the spark of envy, the glow of love. These are not enemies to be slain, but companions to be known. For what we deny festers, what we face we may guide. Consider the man who struts with arrogance, his chest puffed like a bird in spring. He seeks dominion over others, yet his soul trembles at the thought of being unseen. Or the woman who weaves tales of woe, her words a net to bind sympathy, though she knows not why she craves it. These are not aberrations, but reflections of a shared condition. We all bear the weight of desire, the sting of insecurity. The Stoic sees this not with judgment, but with the quiet resolve to rise above it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." To understand human nature is to wield that power. Yet how easily we turn blind to ourselves. We march through life as if our motives were pure, our actions just, while beneath the surface churns a sea of unseen currents. The merchant haggles fiercely, claiming duty to his family, yet secretly delights in outwitting his foe. The scholar labors over scrolls, professing a thirst for truth, yet basks in the glow of others' awe. These are not sins to confess, but truths to confront. The Stoic does not flee from such shadows, but holds them to the light, asking, "What drives me? What blinds me? What can I master?" This mirror of self-reflection is no idle pastime. It is the bedrock of virtue. For how can we practice courage if we do not see our cowardice? How can we cultivate justice if we ignore our pettiness? The laws of human nature are not decrees to obey, but patterns to discern. They reveal that we are creatures of habit, drawn to comfort yet restless for more, that we are swayed by the crowd yet yearn to stand apart, that we cloak our weaknesses in noble words yet falter when the mask slips. To know these laws is to strip away illusion, to stand firm amid the storm of passions. Let us take, then, the first law. We are governed by the need to feel significant. Like moths to a flame, we seek the light of recognition, be it through praise, power, or pity. The emperor in his palace and the beggar in the dust share this hunger, though their paths differ. The Stoic does not scorn this need, but tempers it. Epictetus bids us, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." To crave the world's applause is to surrender our peace to its whims. Instead, let significance arise from within, from the quiet dignity of a life well lived, not the clamor of a crowd. Yet this law bends us in subtle ways. Observe the friend who boasts of his deeds, or the rival who undermines with a smile. Their actions whisper, I must be seen, I must be more. And do we not feel the same tug? When slighted, do we not burn with indignation? When praised, do we not swell with secret pride? These are the threads of human nature, woven into every heart. The Stoic sees them not as chains, but as signals, calls to return to reason, to anchor ourselves in what we can control. For control is the Stoic's refuge. We cannot silence the world's judgments nor halt its caprices, but we can govern our response. When envy rises, we may ask, why do I begrudge another's fortune? When anger flares, we may pause. Does this merit my peace? This is the discipline of the mind, the art of turning the mirror inward. Through it, we cease to be puppets of impulse and become architects of our soul. Thus, the study of human nature begins with ourselves, but it does not end there. For as we are, so too are others. The man who flatters you today may scorn you tomorrow, not from malice, but from the same restless craving that stirs in you. The crowd that cheers your name may soon forget it, driven by the same fleeting passions you have felt. To see this is to release resentment, to embrace equanimity. As Seneca counseled, expect nothing from anyone, and you will not be disappointed. Expect instead the dance of human nature, predictable in its unpredictability, and meet it with steady feet. So let us begin here, in this first step of wisdom, to know ourselves as we are, not as we wish to be. Let us hold the mirror with courage, not to flatter or condemn, but to understand. For in that understanding lies freedom, not from our nature, but within it. The laws of humanity are not shackles, but keys, not burdens, but guides. With them we may walk the path of virtue, unshaken by the winds of fate, serene amid the chaos of men. This is the Stoic way, to see clearly, to act justly, to live simply. And it begins with the truth of who we are. Part 2. The Tempest Within, Mastering the Irrational. In the quiet of dawn, when the world lies still, the mind should be a fortress of reason, a sanctuary untroubled by the squalls of passion. Yet how rarely it is so. We are not the tranquil sages we imagine ourselves to be, but creatures tossed by unseen waves. Anger that flares like a sudden storm, fear that gnaws like a hidden pest, desire that pulls like an errant wind. The Stoics knew this truth, that beneath our polished words and measured steps lies a wildness we must tame. To live well is not to banish these tempests, but to steer through them with steady hands. Human nature is a paradox. We pride ourselves on thought, yet we are ruled by feeling. The merchant who hurls insults at a cheating rival believes he defends his honor, but it is rage that speaks. The lover who pines for a distant heart claims it is devotion, yet it is longing that binds her. These are not reasoned choices, but shadows cast by the irrational soul. The Stoic does not rail against this flaw, for it is as natural as the rain. Instead, he asks, how may I meet this storm with calm? How may I turn the wind to my purpose? This is the second law of our nature. We are swayed by emotions we neither see nor command. Like a river swollen by unseen rains, these forces rise swiftly, flooding the plains of our judgment. Consider the man who, slighted by a careless word, broods for days, his thoughts a spiral of grievance. Or the woman who, lifted by a fleeting compliment, dances through her hours as if winged. These are not the acts of a mind at peace, but of a soul unmoored. Yet within us lies the power to anchor ourselves, not by denying the flood, but by building dikes of reason. The Stoics bid us to pause, to breathe, to question. When anger grips us, Epictetus whispers, "It is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment of it. The insult is but sound, the loss but a shift of fortune. Why then do we tremble? Because we paint these events with colors of our own making, red with fury, black with despair. Strip them bare, and they are mere happenings, neutral as the falling leaf. To see this is to loosen their hold, to step back from the edge of the abyss. Yet how fierce the struggle to do so. The body betrays us, heart racing, fists clenching, as if it were a beast apart from the mind. The Stoic knows this too is nature's design, a relic of our ancient days when survival hung on swift reaction. But we are no longer beasts in the wild. We dwell in a world of thought, where the true battle is not with foes, but with ourselves. Seneca counsels, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The slight we magnify, the fear we nurture. These are phantoms we conjure. Dismiss them, and the storm begins to still. Let us then examine the triggers of our unrest. The crowd jeers and we shrink. Why? Because we crave their nod, though their minds shift like sand. A plan fails and we despair. Why? Because we cling to outcomes, though fate owes us nothing. These are the threads of irrationality, tangled in every heart. The Stoic does not cut them with force, but unravels them with patience. He asks, what is in my control? My effort, my intent, my response. The rest, praise, success, the whims of others, lie beyond my grasp. To chase them is to chase the wind. This law reveals itself in others as well. See the friend who lashes out in haste, then regrets in silence. The leader who drives his flock with fear, blind to their resentment. They too are caught in the tempest, their actions a mirror to our own. The Stoic does not scorn their folly, for he has felt its tug. Instead, he learns from it, noting how passion distorts, how it cloaks itself as virtue. To understand this is to foresee the chaos, to stand unshaken when it comes. Yet mastery is not suppression. The Stoic does not seek a heart of stone, for to feel is human. Joy at a child's laughter, sorrow at a friend's passing, these are not flaws to purge, but colors of life to accept. The error lies in excess, in letting the wave drown the shore. When joy turns to clinging, when sorrow turns to despair, we stray from reason. Thus Marcus Aurelius bids us, be like the rock against which the waves crash, unmoved while the fury spends itself. Feel, but do not be ruled. How then do we train this mastery? By practice as the athlete trains the body. Each day offers its trials, the sharp word, the unmet hope, the sudden pang. Meet them not with haste, but with deliberation. When anger rises, wait, let it crest and fall. When fear whispers, probe what truly threatens me. When desire pulls, reflect. What do I lack that this promises? This is the discipline of the soul, the slow forging of a mind that bends but does not break. So we return to the fortress within. The irrational will ever stir, such is our nature, but it need not rule. Through the lens of Stoic wisdom, we see it for what it is, a guest, not a master. We welcome it to teach us, not to bind us, for in its wildness lies a gift, the chance to choose reason, to claim our freedom. The tempest may rage, but we need not be its prey. Stand firm, look clear, and let the storm pass. This is the second step on the path, to know the irrational, to meet it with courage, and to rise above it with grace. Part 3, the shadow of the self, taming the ego's flame. In the grand chorus of existence, each voice seeks to rise above the rest, as if the universe were a stage and we its sole performers. We craft tales where we are the hero, the victim, the sage, rarely the bystander. This is no fault to confess, but a thread woven into our being. We see through the lens of self, a mirror that bends all light to our form. The Stoics gazed upon this trait not with disdain, but with understanding, for they too were men. To live wisely is not to shatter this mirror, but to see beyond its frame, to place the self in its proper measure. This is the third law of human nature. We are enthralled by our own reflection. Like Narcissus at the pool, we gaze upon ourselves, not always with love, but with fixation. The merchant tallies his wealth not for its use, but for the stature it grants him. The poet pens verses not for truth, but for the echo of his name. Even in humility, we preen, wearing meekness as a badge. This is not mere vanity, but a hunger deep within, to matter, to endure, to be the axis on which the world turns. The Stoic does not curse this flame, but tends it, lest it consume him. For the ego is a fire, warm when contained, wild when unbound. Observe the man who bristles at a slight, his face flushed with wounded pride. He does not hear the words, but the threat to his image. Or the woman who labors to outshine her peers, her joy dimmed by their gains. She does not seek the work, but the crown it promises. These are the ego's whispers. You are the center. All must bow to you. Yet the Stoic knows the truth. The world spins not for us, but with us, a vast dance of which we are but one step. This law blinds us in subtle ways. We judge others by their effect on us, friend if they flatter, foe if they wound, forgetting they too are mirrors, reflecting their own light. We mourn a loss not for its own sake, but for what it steals from our story. Even our virtues bend to this pull. The generous hand gives, yet secretly counts the thanks. Seneca warns us, what need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. To fixate on the self is to miss the greater tide, to trade wisdom for a fleeting shadow. Yet the Stoic does not seek to extinguish the self, for it is the vessel of our will. Without it, we could not act, nor strive, nor love. The error lies in its tyranny, in letting it rule rather than serve. Marcus Aurelius bids us, look within, do not allow the peculiar quality of anything to elude you. That quality is our power to choose, to rise above the ego's clamor. When pride swells, we may ask, what does this serve? When envy stings, we may ponder, why do I grudge what is not mine? This is the mirror turned inward, not to adore but to question. Consider the daily trials of this law. A friend's success stirs unease. Why? Because it dims our star. A stranger's scorn cuts deep. Why? Because it cracks our mask. These are not the world's blows, but our own making. The Stoic sees them as teachers, not torments. Epictetus reminds us there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Others' deeds, their thoughts, their praise, these are not ours to command. To chase them is to chase a phantom. To release them is to find peace. This taming of the ego is no small feat. The mind resists, clinging to its throne. Yet through practice we may shift the center. Begin with small acts. Yield in a quarrel, not from weakness, but from strength. Rejoice in another's gain, not from pretense, but from freedom. Each step loosens the grip, widens the view. The Stoic does not shrink the self, but sets it beside others, a thread in a vast tapestry. As Seneca wrote, we are members of one great body. To see this is to soften the ego's edge, to trade its clamor for quiet purpose. In others, too, we see this law at play. The tyrant who demands obedience, the flatterer who bends like a reed. They are slaves to the same mirror. Their actions ripple, touching us, testing us. The Stoic meets them not with wrath, but with pity, for he knows their chains. He learns from their excess. The tyrant teaches restraint, the flatterer sincerity. Thus even the ego's shadow serves the wise, a lesson in what to shun. So we stand before this third truth. The self is both our light and our burden. We cannot cast it off, nor should we. Instead, let us wield it as a tool, not a crown. Let us seek significance not in the world's eyes, but in our own deeds, done not for glory, but for their rightness. When the ego flares, let us pause, breathe, and turn the mirror outward. What matters is not that I am seen, but that I see. Not that I am first, but that I am just. This is the Stoic's alchemy, to take the flame of self and forge from it a steady glow, illuminating the path not for one, but for all. On part 4, the masks we wear finding truth beneath the play. In the marketplace of life, we are all actors, donning costumes to suit the scene. The merchant smiles warmly to charm his buyer, though his heart may be cold. The friend nods in agreement, though doubt gnaws within. We shift our words, our gestures, our very selves, as if the world were a stage and approval the applause we seek. This is no deceit to condemn, but a rhythm of our nature. We play roles to belong, to wield influence, to shield what lies beneath. The Stoic sees this not with scorn, but with clarity, striving not to banish the mask, but to wears it with purpose and truth. This is the fourth law of human nature. We adapt to the gaze of others. Like reeds in the wind, we bend to the moment, bold with the powerful, gentle with the meek, silent with the stranger. The child learns early to mimic, to please, to win favor. The man refines this art, crafting a self for every eye. Yet beneath the performance lies a tension. Who am I when the curtain falls? The Stoic does not flee this question, but meets it head on. For while the mask is inevitable, its master need not be the crowd. Observe the daily dance of roles. The worker flatters his master, though resentment simmers. The parent softens her voice, though weariness weighs her down. These are not lies, but tools, instincts honed by a world that rewards the adaptable. Yet how easily they bind us. We polish the mask until it gleams, forgetting the face beneath. The Stoic knows this trap. To live for others' eyes is to lose our own. Marcus Aurelius bids us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The role matters less than the intent behind it. For the mask itself is not the foe, it is a cloak we all must wear. The error lies in its tyranny, in letting it shape us rather than us shaping it. Consider the man who boasts to impress, his words a hollow echo, or the woman who feigns meekness to avoid strife, her spirit dimmed. They do not act, but are acted upon, puppets of expectation. The Stoic turns this law to his advantage. He plays the part when it serves, but never forgets the soul within. He asks, does this role align with virtue? Does it lead me to reason, to justice, to courage? This alignment is the Stoic's craft. He does not scorn the merchant's smile, but bids him smile with sincerity, to trade fairly beneath the charm. He does not chide the friend's nod, but urges him to nod with conviction, or speak his doubt with kindness. The mask becomes not a shield for weakness, but a frame for strength. Epictetus teaches, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Know your purpose and let the role flow from it, not from fear nor flattery, nor the fickle tide of others' whims. Yet how fierce the pull to conform. The crowd's laughter lifts us, its frowns cut deep. We crave the script they hand us. Be bold here, be silent there, be what we desire. To resist is to risk their scorn, their distance. The Stoic bears this lightly. Seneca writes, you ask me what you should consider it particularly important to avoid? I say, a crowd, not their company, but their sway. For the crowd knows not what it wants. Today it cheers, tomorrow it jeers. To live for its applause is to build on sand. In others, too, we see this law unfold. The flatterer's honeyed words drip with need. The tyrant's glare demands submission. They wear their masks with fervor, yet beneath lies fragility, a fear of being unmasked. The Stoic learns from them. The flatterer teaches honesty, the tyrant humility. He meets their roles with his own, not to clash, but to stand firm. When they provoke, he responds not with heat, but with calm, not to win their game, but to rise above it. This law tests us most in solitude. Alone the masks should fall, yet often they cling. We rehearse old lines, imagining eyes that are not there. The man who failed replays his shame, crafting excuses for an absent judge. The woman who triumphed preens in silence, awaiting praise that will not come. The Stoic sees this as folly. Alone there is no audience but the self, and the self demands no performance, only truth. Here in quiet, we forge what we are, not what we seem. How then do we master this play? By choosing our roles with care, not caprice. Each day offers its parts, the leader, the listener, the laborer. Play them not for gain, but for their rightness. When the world bids you bend, ask, does this serve my soul or merely its shadow? When it bids you shine, ask, is this light mine or borrowed? This is the discipline of authenticity, to wear the mask when we must, but to wear it as ourselves, not as echoes of another's will. Thus we stand before this fourth truth. We are actors all, but not slaves to the stage. The masks we wear are tools, not chains, means to navigate the world, not to lose ourselves within it. The Stoic does not reject them, but refines them, aligning each gesture with the good, the true, the just. Let others play for applause, he plays for peace. Let the crowd shift its scenes, he holds his course. This is the art of living, to don the cloak of the moment, yet keep the heart steady beneath, a beacon of virtue amid the shifting play of men. Part 5. The hunger for more quelling the covetous heart. In the garden of life, where each man tends his plot, the eye strays not to the blooms at hand, but to those beyond the fence. We covet what is not ours, the coin in another's purse, the laurel on another's brow, the peace in another's gaze. This longing is no sin to scourge, but a pulse within us all, a whisper of discontent that drives both greatness and ruin. The Stoics saw this not as a flaw to curse, but as a call to reason, a chance to turn the restless heart toward what truly sustains. For to covet is to chase shadows. To be content is to hold the sun. This is the fifth law of human nature. We yearn for what others have. Like moths drawn to a distant flame, we fix upon the gleam of their fortune, blind to our own. The farmer envies the merchant's wealth, though his fields yield bounty. The scholar covets the warrior's glory, though his words shape minds. This is not mere greed, but a deeper ache. To be more, to have more, to bridge the gap between what we are and what we see. The Stoic does not fight this hunger, but redirects it, from the outer world to the inner citadel. For covetousness is a thief of peace. It bids us measure our worth by another's store, as if life were a scale and we the lighter weight. Observe the man who scowls at his neighbor's feast, though his own table is full, or the woman who pines for a rival's beauty, though her mirror reflects grace. They do not lack, yet they feel empty, prisoners of a want they cannot name. Marcus Aurelius counsels, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. The treasure lies not beyond, but beneath our feet. Yet how fierce this urge grips us. The mind spins tales of what might be, riches to ease our days, fame to echo our name, love to fill our solitude. Each glimpse of another's gain stokes the fire. Why not me? Why not more? The Stoic sees this as a mirage. Epictetus bids us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. To crave what we lack is to scorn what we hold. To chase another's light is to dim our own. The fault lies not in desire, but in its master. This law reveals itself in subtle snares. A friend's triumph sours our joy. Why? Because it casts a shadow on our own. A stranger's ease stirs unease. Why? Because it mocks our toil. These are not the world's gifts withheld, but our own lens warped. The Stoic turns the question inward. What do I truly need? Health to act? Reason to judge? Virtue to stand? These are mine to claim, not to borrow. The rest, gold, glory, the nods of men, are trinkets, fleeting as the wind. In others too, we see this hunger play. The rival who flaunts his prize seeks not his joy, but your envy. The beggar who curses the rich seeks not their coin, but their place. They are mirrors to our own unrest, their actions a lesson in what to shun. The Stoic does not judge their want, for he has felt its tug. Instead, he pities their chase, knowing it ends in dust. Seneca writes, "No man can live happily who regards himself alone, who turns everything to his own advantage. To covet is to shrink the soul, to share is to free it. Yet contentment is no idle gift. It is a garden cultivated. The mind, left wild, sprouts weeds of want. Tamed, it bears fruit of peace. Begin with gratitude. Each dawn, name what you have: breath, shelter, a moment's quiet. These are no small things, though the covetous eye overlooks them. Next, with refusal. When envy rises, let it pass. Do not feed it with brooding, nor chase it with schemes. Finally, with focus. Turn your hands to what is yours, your will to what is good. This is the Stoic's harvest, abundance born of restraint. The world tempts us still. Voices call, take more, be more, lack nothing. The crowd measures worth by heaps of wealth, of power, of praise. To defy this is to stand alone, a rock amid the tide. Yet the Stoic bears it gladly. He knows the truth. What others clutch slips through their fingers. Riches rust, fame fades, beauty withers. What endures is within, the calm of a mind at rest, the strength of a heart unswayed. As Seneca bids, lay hold of today's task, and you will not need to depend so much on tomorrow's. So we face this fifth truth. The hunger for more is our shadow, ever trailing. We cannot outrun it, nor should we try. Instead, let us meet it with wisdom, to see what we chase, to weigh its worth, to let it go. The Stoic does not starve desire, but starves its excess, feeding instead the soul's true needs. Let others scramble for the spoils. He seeks the quiet wealth of enough. Let the world dangle its baubles. He holds to what lasts. This is the art of living, to quell the covetous heart, to find riches in the present, to walk free amid the clamor of want. Part 6, the veil of the moment, seeing beyond the now. In the flicker of each day, we chase what glimmers, pleasure that warms the hour, pain that we dodge with haste, a prize that dazzles the eye. Like moths to a lantern, we flit toward the near, heedless of the dusk beyond. This is no failing to flog, but a rhythm of our nature. We are bound to the moment, its joys and stings sharper than the shadows of tomorrow. The Stoics gazed upon this not with reproach, but with resolve, knowing that wisdom lies not in fleeing the now, but in piercing its veil to see the whole. For to live well is to weigh the instant against eternity. This is the sixth law of human nature. We favor the short over the long. The merchant trades his health for a quick coin. The lover clings to a fleeting spark though it burns. The dreamer builds castles of air that crumble by dawn. We crave what soothes today, blind to what shapes tomorrow. This is not folly alone, but instinct, a relic of days when survival hung on the next breath. Yet we are no longer beasts of the wild. The Stoic does not scorn this pull, but lifts his eyes asking, what endures? What lasts beyond the flame? For short-sightedness is a thief of reason. It bids us grasp what fades, as if the moment's gleam were all. Observe the man who feasts till he groans, heedless of the morrow's ache, or the woman who quarrels over a trifle, blind to the rift it carves. They do not see the chain, how each step links to the next. how today's choice seeds tomorrow's harvest. Marcus Aurelius warns, think of the whole of existence, of which you are but the tiniest part, and of the whole of time, of which a brief span has been assigned to you. The now is but a thread, the wise weave it into the tapestry. Yet how fierce this veil clings. The mind shrinks from the vast, clutching the near as if it were all. A coin in hand outweighs a field unplanted. A laugh today trumps a peace deferred. The Stoic knows this tug. The body craves, the heart leaps, the will bends. Epictetus bids us persist and resist. Persist in seeing the long arc, resist the lure of the fleeting. When pleasure calls, ask, what cost follows? When anger flares, ask, what wound lingers? This is the discipline of foresight, to hold the moment gently, not tightly. This law traps us in cycles. We chase ease only to toil harder. We shun pain only to invite it later. The worker idles, then scrambles as deadlines loom. The ruler appeases, then faces revolt grown bold. These are not fate's whims, but our own hands at work. The Stoic turns the lens. What can I control now to shape what comes? A seed sown, a word withheld, a habit forged. These are small today, mighty tomorrow. Seneca writes, life is long if you know how to use it. To see beyond the veil is to stretch each hour into years. In others, too, we see this law unfold. The friend who boasts of quick gains ignores their frailty. The foe who strikes in haste breeds lasting grudge. They dance to the tune of the instant, their steps a mirror to our own. The Stoic learns from their blur. The braggart teaches patience, the rash teach pause. He meets their haste with his own rhythm, not to outpace but to outlast. When they stumble, he stands, not from pride, but from preparation. Yet foresight is no easy gift. It is a muscle honed. The mind left soft clings to the near. Trained, it stretches far. Begin with reflection. Each night trace the day's deeds. Where did I bend to the moment? Where did I build for the morrow? Next, with purpose. Set your aim not on today's ease, but on next year's strength. Health tended, wisdom sought, virtue grown. Finally, with detachment, hold the now lightly, knowing it passes. This is the Stoic's craft, to see the river's course, not just its ripple. The world tempts us still. Voices cry, seize the day, taste the fruit, fear the loss. The crowd lives for the burst. Applause now, riches now, rest now. To defy this is to swim upstream, a solitary stroke against the current. Yet the Stoic bears it gladly. He knows the truth. What glitters fades, what lasts is forged. A moment's joy is sweet, but a life's peace is sweeter. As Seneca bids, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. To see the end is to value the means. So we stand before this sixth truth. The veil of the moment is our shroud, yet also our window. We cannot tear it down, nor should we. Instead, let us lift it with care. To savor the now, yet serve the then. To feel the day, yet frame the years. The Stoic does not spurn the short, but tempers it with the long, weaving each thread into a cloth that endures. Let others chase the spark. He seeks the fire that warms through winter. Let the world rush headlong. He walks with eyes raised. This is the art of living, to pierce the veil, to plant for the harvest. to find eternity in the fleeting breath. Part 7. The Fire of Defiance Forging Freedom Within. In the vast arena of life, where voices command and hands direct, there stirs a spark in every breast, a refusal to bow, a cry to stand apart. We chafe at the yoke, be it of king or custom, parent or peer, as if freedom were a prize won only by pushing back. This is no vice to vilify, but a flame of our nature. We defy to define ourselves, to carve a space amid the press of the world. The Stoics saw this not with alarm, but with insight, knowing that true liberty lies not in rebellion outward, but in mastery inward. For to defy wisely is to claim the soul's domain. This is the seventh law of human nature. We resist what binds us. The child spurns the rule to test his will. The worker grumbles at the task to reclaim his pride. The dreamer shuns the path laid before him to chase his own. This is not mere stubbornness, but a hunger deep within, to be the author of our fate, to shake off the shadow of another's hand. The Stoic does not quench this fire, but tends it, lest it blaze wild or gutter out. He asks, what do I seek, freedom or merely its echo? For defiance untamed is a double-edged sword, nor it lifts us when we break a tyrant's chain, yet binds us when we scorn for scorn's sake. Observe the man who rails at every order, his voice loud with rage, yet his days small with spite. Or the woman who rejects all counsel, her path a maze of her own making. They do not rise but sink, slaves to their own defiance. Marcus Aurelius bids us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. To resist blindly is to mirror the foe. To resist with purpose is to transcend him. Yet how fierce this spark burns. The mind bristles at constraint. I will not, I shall not, as if each limit were a cage. The Stoic knows this heat. The heart leaps to prove itself. The will strains to break free. Epictetus counsels, freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire. The chain is not the rule, but our clinging to pride, to pique, to the need to be seen. True defiance is not against the world, but against the self that bends to its whims. This law plays out in daily acts. A sharp word from a friend sparks a retort. Why? To assert our ground. A task imposed stirs a scowl. Why? To guard our sway. These are not the world's walls, but our own raised fists. The Stoic turns the mirror. What can I command? My tongue, my patience, my choice. The rest, others' decrees, their judgments, their power, are not mine to break, but to bear. Seneca writes, to bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. To defy the storm is not to shout at it, but to stand through it. In others, too, we see this law flare. The rebel who topples norms seeks not their end, but his own beginning. The rival who challenges seeks not your fall, but his rise. They are mirrors to our own fire, their acts a lesson in its use. The Stoic learns from their heat. The rebel teaches courage, the rival restraint. He meets their defiance with his own, not to clash but to refine. When they push, he yields where he must, stands where he can, not from weakness, but from strength. Yet mastery is no swift victory. It is a forge stoked by time. The mind left raw lashes out, tempered, it turns inward. Begin with pause. When defiance rises, wait. Let it speak, not shout. Next, with reason, ask, does this fight free me or bind me? Finally, with redirection, channel the flame, to build, not burn, to mend, not mar. This is the Stoic's art, to take the spark of resistance and light a lamp, not a pyre. As Seneca bids, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. The world tests us still. Voices demand, obey, conform, submit. The crowd bends to the rod, fearing its sting or craving its nod. To defy this is to walk alone, a flame amid the dark. Yet the Stoic bears it gladly. He knows the truth. Outer chains may hold the body, but only we chain the soul. Freedom is not won by breaking walls, but by building within. A citadel of calm, a will unbowed. Marcus Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So we reach this seventh truth. The fire of defiance is our birthright, our burden, our gift. We cannot douse it, nor should we. Instead, let us wield it with wisdom, to resist not for noise, but for quiet, not for chaos, but for order. The Stoic does not defy the world, but the weakness within it, the fear, the fury, the folly. Let others battle shadows. He fights for light. Let the crowd bend or break. He stands whole. This is the art of living, to take the flame of defiance, to forge from it a freedom that endures, to find in resistance the path to peace. The morals and conclusions of the laws of human nature through a Stoic lens, with a focus on wisdom, self-mastery, and understanding others. 1. Understand thyself first. Moral. Before seeking to decipher the motives and actions of others, know your own nature. Our greatest battles are not with the external world, but with our own impulses, fears, and desires. Self-awareness is the foundation of wisdom. Conclusion. Reflect daily on your emotions and actions. Strip away illusions of ego and vanity. Only through self-examination can you approach others with clarity and fairness. 2. Master your emotions. Moral. Emotions are like wild horses. If left unchecked, they lead you astray. The wise person observes their feelings without being ruled by them. Conclusion. Cultivate calm and discipline. When provoked, pause, respond with reason, not impulse. In mastering your passions, you gain true power. 3. See others as they are, not as you wish them to be. Moral. Expecting others to conform to your ideals is a recipe for frustration. People are driven by their own nature, ambitions, and flaws. Conclusion. Practice objectivity. Observe without judgment or resentment. Accept human nature for what it is, and you will avoid needless disappointment. 4. Detach from the opinions of others. Moral. The praise or criticism of others is fleeting and often misguided. To tie your self-worth to external validation is to hand over your peace. Conclusion. Stay rooted in principle. Do what is right, not what is popular. Let your conscience, not the crowd, be your guide. 5. Cultivate patience and strategy. Moral, immediate gratification and impulsive action lead to regret. The wise know that patience and long-term vision yield the best results. Conclusion. Think ahead. Endure temporary setbacks with grace. The strongest moves often require waiting for the right moment. 6. Embrace the reality of power and influence. Moral. Power is an inescapable element of human interaction. Denying this truth leaves you vulnerable. Understanding it gives you strength. Conclusion. Learn the dynamics of influence without becoming manipulative. Wield power with justice and humility. Influence others by example, not deceit. Yertes 7. Accept the inevitable flaws of humanity. Moral. People are often driven by irrationality, envy, and self-interest. This is not a cause for cynicism, but for understanding. Conclusion. Approach others with compassion and caution. Expect imperfection in them and in yourself. Forgive readily, but trust with wisdom. 8. Seek wisdom above all. Moral. In a world full of distractions and folly, the pursuit of wisdom is rare and precious. True strength lies in clear thinking and sound judgment. Conclusion. Read deeply. Reflect often. Question your assumptions. Let your mind be a fortress of reason, untouched by the storms of emotion and ignorance.